The following is a public service announcement.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror PSA presented by Scary Nerd, and as always, we are your hosts. I'm Paul.
I'm Saul.
And I'm Angie. So let's get right into it today. We're talking about Idle Hands, the 1999 classic featuring Devon Sawa, Seth Green, and many, many more.
A very young Jessica Alba, which Angie's been known to hate.
Meh.
Been known to hate?
Well, she's made it clear in the past that she
Let
does
it be
not
written.
like
Let it be written. Are you writing this?
her. She said in the past that she does not care for Jessica Alba.
She's just awful. Even in the roles that she's not trying to be awful in, she is awful. She's like the opposite of Kristen Stewart. You know how Kristen Stewart can't emote? Jessica Alba emotes too much. Like, she just needs to chill out.
She just looks always confused.
She
Especially
does.
in this movie, she just looked like, I'm lost and I don't know where I am.
And sometimes when she's thinking really hard, she looks like she's in pain. And I just don't get it.
All right,
Does
we're
this
not
hurt
doing-
you?
Okay,
We're not here to shit on Jessica Alba for an
Sorry,
hour. Let's
Jessica
talk
Alba,
about the
you're
damn
just not
movie.
my cup of
Okay.
tea. I'm sure I'm not her cup of tea either.
Well,
Okay.
Anyway, back to the movie.
your
Back to the
acquired
movie.
taste, I guess. Okay,
So, this
so
1999.
90s, 1999. Yes, okay. So I think the actual intro to the movie is way scarier than the movie is, because there's
It shows blood.
Oh,
yeah,
so
there's,
much
there's
blood.
blood. There's got the shaky letters. It's just like, it seems like the movie, if you judged it by the intro, you were like, this is a completely different movie than what I'm expecting.
This is going to be dark as hell, especially through that intro.
Yeah, I like the intro. It's very classic 1999, early 2000s rock kind of music video.
It had that like digital matrixy kind of rock music in the intro. That
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like they're really cashing in on that whole kind of thing.
and
at
it's
the
just a
time in
big
the
pile
90s.
of blood with pictures of the Star of David and other occult symbols. I say occult with quotey fingers because it was just a star. It wasn't even a pentagram. In the
They had
intro.
skulls, and then they had skull hands, which if you want to call that all deathy and evil, go ahead.
Occult is what we'll
occultish.
occultish.
Okay, so the thing with the intro and the first scene, again, it sets you up for you thinking it's going to be a completely dark movie.
Which quickly turns around.
It does, but it does still have that kind of cheesiness to it. It wasn't early 2000s film, but they had some ridiculous imagery in it, like the wave transition into the pumpkin, into the actual story from the introduction. It was all very tongue-in-cheek, which is, I think, what the essence of Idle Hands is.
Very much so. And so we get into the beginning of the movie where we see Anton, who is Devon Sawa's character. We see his parents getting ready for bed, and Mom makes a quick jab, like, did you put out the candles in the pumpkins that they have for decoration because it's around Halloween? And
they're pumpkin farmers.
Pumpkin farmers.
They're
yeah.
pumpkin
the
farmers.
American Gothic of pumpkins, I think
Yes.
is what the painting is called.
Which
But-
looked really cool, by the way.
It does. It does look really cool, as if you can get over the cheesy overalls.
well, it's part of the painting. You gotta have
You gotta have the overalls. You can't not have those overalls in it.
Okay, so Mom and Dad are going to bed, and they turn the lights out, and they see someone has written on the wall, or excuse me, the ceiling, that I am under your bed.
And Connie Ray, who plays the mom, has a great scream. She could have been a scream queen. She has the perfect voice for it. She has a high-pitched voice, which really works for screams.
What I found funny was the fact that after they saw I'm under the bed, what does the wife do right away? She smacks the husband and tells him, go look. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Oh, of course.
He didn't want to go either. He was
Yeah.
like, it's probably the cat. I don't know.
Grabs
Yeah, well,
the-
he looks under the bed and sees nothing, and then they hear noise downstairs, and that's when she's like, go see what it is. And he's like, well, the dog's outside. Maybe it's just the cat.
And the dad, by the way, is played by Fred Willard, who you've seen in everything.
He's in everything. He plays the dad so perfect.
For as big of a name as he is, you only really see him in this movie for about 5 minutes.
The opening,
Tops.
The opening scene.
The opening scene.
Which he was great in, though.
He was
Either
great.
way, so.
He is an excellent father, and he does convey that Anton is a lazy lieabout who won't get off the couch if the house was on fire to help out the family.
I love that the mom, too, like, she says, our little scooter would never do
Yes,
that.
our little scooter. And the dad makes a quick jab. He's like, quick calling him that baby name.
But Mom was so quick to defend him, saying that he would help. But
He's the baby.
Dad kind of sees through his facade.
I think it's the only child thing, too.
Oh, yeah, for
It
sure.
doesn't appear that he's got any siblings
No, he's
around.
got
My
nobody.
baby can't do no wrong.
Nope. So the dad reluctantly goes downstairs to check out the suspicious noise, and that leaves the mom just sitting there nervously waiting for the dad to come back. And she hears noises every now and then, so she starts knitting. She's a nervous knitter.
That's the first thing she reaches for. She doesn't even go for the phone. She doesn't
Nope.
grab for anything but those kneading needles.
She's got a little
The
anxiety.
knitting needles?
The
Knitting
knitting needle.
Needles. Enunciate. Sorry.
It's hard to say. It's a hard thing.
So he goes down, tries to figure out what's going on, and then what happens to him?
We hear
We don't
him
know.
fall.
We hear something fall. So then mom grabs the cat and starts going downstairs. And I'm like, what is she going to do with that cat?
I know, she
Was
just
the cat,
just
like,
the cat.
She grabs the cat and is taking him down. And I'm like, that's a sacrifice. If shit goes sideways, she's throwing that cat.
Leave the cat and run.
running.
If anything, that cat's going to sense danger, and it is going to claw the shit out of that lady.
Oh yeah, that cat is gonna try to get away and just tear up the mom's arms,
So what does she do? She tries to find Anton, who is living in the attic.
which is every late 90s, early 2000s kid's dream of having their own floor.
I still want to have my own floor. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oof, I know, right? A whole space just for yourself. Even as an adult, you don't get that, kids. Sorry.
Yeah, but she pulls down the thing, but then it's like
Quietly
she
says his name.
doesn't even really yell at all. It's just like
No. You can definitely tell this is a movie because if that was a real mom of a teenage son, they would have been like, Anton!
Yeah, but then again, she doesn't know who's in the house, so she doesn't want to give it out by yelling out who it is.
I don't care. I'd be louder. If that was me, I'd be louder.
yeah, like wouldn't you be like Anton, grab the guns,
Grab
or
the
something
guns!
like that?
Get
You
the
could
axe!
also-
Get the axe!
But
Whatever.
But is suburbia.
Oh, it's painfully suburbia.
So how many of those people do you think are actually going to have guns in the house?
But you get some really good classic horror themes in this opening setup as she's wandering through the house. You get jump scares with the cat. You get, randomly falling into a pile of blood. You get a lot of classic thematics to horror in
Well, she's
the opening
so
scene.
concerned about what the noise was that she goes to blow the candles out.
Yeah,
of the
she
damn
gets mad.
pumpkins.
Hey,
Well,
he
she
could have
walked-
burned the house down, okay?
She
Well,
walks
at
by
that moment, there's more pressing issues than the house fucking burning.
Well, she was oblivious because, she walks by the bottom step and there's a big streak of blood down there. So
Yeah.
she just casually ignores that one.
But yeah, she's going through the house and she does miss the giant pile of blood, but that's also kind of a horror movie theme. You never see it until you
Another
fall
horror
in
cliche.
it. Yes,
You
a
gotta
very big
step in
horror.
it, or you gotta fall into it.
If
or
it's not
something.
on you, you can't see it in horror films. So
She runs upstairs, still trying to find Anton, and I
This
wrote
time
down,
she pulls down the thing and
Yeah,
yells.
and she's
his
like,
name.
Anton!
yells at-
Anton!
But then she hears a noise in her room, which sends her back into the room. And the whole time she's like looking around, I'm like, call the police, bitch. Until she finally tries to do that, and when it's already too late, when the killer under the bed grabs the phone and pulls her under the bed.
and then we have Death by Bed,
Death by bed.
Death by bed with a huge splat.
which is a very big directing choice. Yes, in this film.
Because the thing about it, though, looking back on or looking forward, where did all that blood come from?
Oh, the dad for sure.
You think?
Yeah.
No.
You mean in the kitchen?
No,
Oh, the
look,
splatter, the
from
mom
under the
splatter?
bed.
No,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was mom being
No, but where
splatted.
did it come from?
Oh, it doesn't matter. That's
From her head.
yeah,
from
it
her
could
neck.
come from
okay.
anywhere. As long as we see the splatter, we
Something-
get the
something
kill.
got smashed open that led to a lot of blood splatter.
I just assumed it was like a Gallagher thing with the bed. You know what I mean? Just
She got her.
crushed.
She got her watermelon.
Yeah,
smashed.
she got her
That's all you need to know.
I was trying to CSI the scene, but
No, we're not CSI. We've
Nope.
established that there was no CSI
There's
back
no
then.
CSI.
this is 99.
No, this
Okay,
is
yeah, but
99.
still,
CSI
people-
was on. I
But
remember.
people didn't know as much shit about that as they do today.
That's
so
true.
you're trying to think about it in terms of like what got smashed. It was her watermelon.
Okay. it was
Gallagher Anton smashed her watermelon.
Her watermelon.
That's all we need to know.
All right.
Beginning of the movie. That's
So
how
now-
it ends.
So
okay.
now parents are
Like,
dead.
now
Which in the
parents
next
are
scene we
dead.
see Anton.
we see lazy ass Anton sleeping in his bed in the attic, and I thought it was like, okay, he's listening to music
on his stereo.
on his stereo, then he just switches it to what is it, like his Walkman or something? Or
Yeah,
he's got
it's
like
his
a
Walkman.
portable something, and then it's like listening to the same shit.
The exact same song.
Yeah, and you see Anton get up, and you immediately know who Anton is. You can see that his hair is greasy. He doesn't put pants on. He's just wandering around in a dirty shirt, and he's just kind of that classic middle class white kid in the 2000s.
Middle
That
class suburban white kid.
Yeah,
So we go downstairs, and immediately it's like, Mom!
yeah.
We're out of milk!
Yeah.
We're out of dog food!
I love that the dog dropped the dog bowl. Like, hey, are you gonna feed me?
Hey, motherfucker.
But he notices that. He notices that he's out of milk and that the dog needs food. But he conveniently misses the giant
Blood on the
pile of
ground.
blood on the ground, right?
Well, there was no milk for his cereal. What else are you going to be thinking about at that point?
Again,
Like, I
he's
got a
oblivious.
big bowl of cereal here with no
He
fucking
is
milk.
just an oblivious burnout. But it doesn't deter him from sitting his ass back on the couch and just smoking weed.
Yeah, because it's like Mom, we need milk. Mom, we need dog food. Oh, nobody's here? All right, well, let's get high on the couch then.
Yep, that's what he does.
Watch some MTV, let's get high.
And he does the classic whole, I got my stash hidden on me in my asthma inhaler.
Yep.
Which something a stoner would be the only one that would think of doing that.
It was very, the character from Cabin in the Woods, it was very similar to that.
Oh,
to where
yeah,
it's
the
like
stoner
coffee,
from that.
coffee cup kind of thing,
Yeah.
the concoction that he had.
That
So it's
comes
like,
into a pipe.
Again,
my inhaler?
something only
It's
stoners would
pothead
think of.
ingenuity is
Yeah,
what
that's what it is.
And you can tell this movie dates itself by how much they use, like, music videos. Because where would you even watch music videos these
You
days?
can't. This was MTV before MTV stopped showing videos.
Yes, when the M still stood for
when
music.
it's- yeah.
So he smokes all his weed and he's out and decides what?
He decides to call his friend, who I thought his friend was like a dealer, but
That's what you're
because
led to believe.
It makes it seem like he's like, bring me over 10. Like, come on, like.
Yeah, he says, bring me a dime bag. He's like, I'm not Domino's. Get your ass over here.
You lazy bitch.
And
And
he
hangs
is a
up.
lazy
He
bitch.
is a
because
lazy
He
bitch.
goes over wearing his mom's like sexy slippers
Sexy
that she just
slippers.
happened to leave around somewhere. Because they're like the little pink with the little ruffle. What is it called? Like boa, kind of feathery looking.
Yeah.
Kind of
Feathers.
cuffs
The feathers,
on
yeah.
the thing, and they're the little pink plasticky looking ones. They're mom's sexy slippers. So throw those on. Walking across the street, just throwing a jacket on in my shirt and boxers. And he climbs into the
basement.
window,
The
like the
basement
basement window
window.
where Panub and Mick are hanging out, and they're also getting high.
Yep, and Mick is played by Seth Green, a very young Seth Green,
It was awesome.
but he's still at the same height because it's Seth Green.
He looks the same, too.
I don't
does.
think his height has changed since it.
Since it, yeah,
And
it's been the
looks
same height.
same, too.
But
He
that's
doesn't
fine.
age.
You're still adorable, Seth Green. I could pick you up and we could walk around
He
together.
doesn't age if you look at him back then and you look at him now.
But he has very black hair in this film, which is an odd choice for him.
They're very dark.
They're
90s
2000s rock kids.
He looked like the younger version of the character he played in Can't Hardly Wait.
Yes.
He looked.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
that's basically was the same guy, just a few years earlier, kind of thing, maybe.
Well, who had found rock music? Because that
Hey.
guy was more into rap. He was.
Yeah. Well, they
Oh
made
yeah.
the
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, maybe he changed.
Maybe teenage years are a weird time of music in general. The other friend, Panub, is played by Eldon Henson, who you've known.
That is Fulton from the Mighty Ducks. I don't care
Yes.
what other movie he's been in. That is Fulton forever for me.
I thought it was funny that there was so many like generic band posters on the wall. It seemed like it was whoever decorated it was like, all right, well, these are what the kids are listening to, so I'll just put
Yeah.
up these posters. Like there was like a Prodigy poster on the wall, and I'm like, who? I don't know anyone who actually listened to Prodigy. Like there may be like one or two good songs. that
What
you
did
would
Prodigy sing?
Like, I don't know.
Firestarter and Smack My Bitch Up.
Oh,
so
I
yeah.
listened to Prodigy, just
So
not
you listened
just
to
the
two
main
songs.
songs.
You
yeah.
listened to the two songs, but
I
not
knew the
enough-
words to them, but
not enough to where you're gonna go buy
Yeah.
a fucking
You
poster
didn't
and
need
put it
to
on.
know
your
a
wall.
whole lot of lyrics to Prodigy songs.
Really,
It
what
was
what
the
are the
same
lyrics
thing
to
over.
Firestarter besides the words
Firestarter.
Firestarter?
I'm a fire starter. That's all he pretty much says.
That, yeah, so you don't. No one buys the poster. Like,
No,
oh, they have that
no
one
one
good
buys the
song that
poster.
I know.
And then they have the weed posters everywhere. Other than that, and they're listening to Sublime. So clearly, all the stonerific things of the 2000s are here.
It's totally '90s stoner basement
Yep.
hangout.
And it is a classic, like that 70s show basement where it's
That's
just
where
a place to hang out.
Everybody congregates, at least from what we know from these guys.
And even Anton's friends realize how much of a burnout he is. Like, they try to give him a pep talk. His friend Mick is like, maybe you should have some ambition. And look, if a stoner who smokes weed all day is telling you you need some ambition,
Yeah,
you need
some
to get
goals.
off your ass.
I
and
think he
get
says
some
like you need some
ambition."
goals, Anton.
They were depressed for him. That's the one thing.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, like I smoke all day and
He still
do
manages to
nothing,
go to school.
but you have no goals, Anton.
Doesn't
Like,
he say that? Don't get me wrong, I like smoking weed, and that's what life is all about.
Yeah.
But
But you got to have some goals.
gotta get some
you gotta go
goals.
to school.
So he
something.
tells them. So Panub tells him, "I'm sorry, I made that up. I lied to you. I don't have any weed." And he tells him, "Nutmeg and oregano will get you pretty high."
Get you messed up.
But then they start talking about like, where have you been? They start talking about the dance, and he's like, you didn't know about all the people that are getting murdered. And
Oh, yes,
our little town is in the spotlight.
The
I
thing that I
wrote-
loved was when he said, "Don't you watch the news?" And Anton said, "No, I hate that show."
His friends provide all the exposition for the film. They tell him
They're-
who got murdered, where
Yeah.
they got murdered.
They're simultaneously comic relief and exposition.
Yes, and it goes by so seamlessly. The pace of the film is just great right there because it gives you all the info you need in such a short time.
It does it in kind of an organic way that's like friends hanging out. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you didn't hear? Like, you fucking pothead? You've
Right.
done nothing? Like,
If you haven't been to
like
school in the
the-
last
what-
6 months, you would have
yeah,
known.
what was it? The Feldstein twins or whatever
Yeah.
you call them? And he's like, I love that he's like, did they get caught jerking off in the milkshakes again? I'm like, what the fuck do you mean again?
Right?
Like,
Was
how
there a
many-
first time?
Like, how many times do you need to do that before you fire these fuckers? And why does everyone still hang out at the fucking burger jungle?
You would
where
think after the first time, be like, no, you guys
Yeah,
are done.
that seems like a fireable offense.
Should we
right?
close this place down? Like, maybe, okay, let's not hire these two or hire them somewhere away from food. They can jerk off in something else.
But the other thing that I found
That's white privilege. If you're,
Oh,
if
yes.
it's town,
You can jerk off into a milk
if it's
machine.
public knowledge in your town that the twins that run the fucking drive-through at the Burger Jungle have jerked off in
into
the
the
goddamn milkshake mixer thing, and they're not arrested or sex offenders, that's white
or at
privilege.
least been fired.
At very least, you have to fire these two, right?
Yeah.
Like,
They come from a good family. That's all you need to
So
know.
they got what they deserve. Then is what I'm trying to. Is what
Maybe
I'm
that's
telling you.
maybe. Well, maybe it's not Anton, but I guess the hand.
the
You
devil
know what they were
hand.
doing?
The devil hand was like, hey, no, that's not cool, man.
He's like, even I frowned upon that.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
don't
even
kill
for
people.
us.
It's like even for us, that's a little extreme. But the thing that I do remember them mentioning too, which again on other movies, is they have a curfew set in place,
Yep.
which everybody again seems to just casually ignore.
And that's why there's a Halloween dance, because that's the only thing there is to do. So naturally, all the teens are going to be there.
But I think that's kind of counterproductive or counterintuitive. If
You would think.
have a curfew and you're going to have a dance.
Well, they probably want them all to be in one place where they can kind of watch and control them instead of trying to go out trick or treating or anything.
but there was no security at that dance.
There was only the
Well,
pervert
there's no
principal.
family in or there's no parents in this fucking street or town or anyone. Anyway, you see his parents in the beginning, and I think those are the only fucking parents you see the whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
So enter the generic
Generic love
interest, which is Molly, played by
Jessica
Jessica
Alba.
Alba, and she's going by on her scooter, and
No, it wasn't a scooter. That was a motorcycle.
It was
it was like a fucking.
it was
It
like,
looked like a it was
it was like a
making
moped
It
thing.
Yeah,
made
it's-
enough noise for them to realize
That's
that it was
not.
her.
That was
Yeah.
not a fucking motorcycle.
No, it wasn't a
She was-
motorcycle. It was like a moped
it was the.
thing.
It was like the little like Vespa like.
Yeah.
Either way,
Either way, they heard it. Okay, well, the fucking window can just be opened by kicking it in, so they hear everything outside. Plus, they're underground, so they're street level. So they hear her stupid Vespa scooter, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Anton, it's your girlfriend," or blah blah blah. Like,
Like, why don't you finally talk to her? You lived across the street from her for how many years?
yeah, and so he's like, and he's got a serious boner for this chick because here's the line that he says.
Her songs are badass, man. She's like a poet or something.
No, she's not. As you find out later,
You find out
really
that
not.
she's a terrible
she's
poet.
really not. So they're like, "Oh, look, she dropped her book," and they're like, "Go give it back to her," you know. and
You're
she'll
going to
make-
get laid.
she'll invite you in, and like I love that Panub was like Red Shoe Diaries style. I'm like, that is so 90s to mention fucking Red Shoe Diaries.
If you
As
do
a
not
90s
know-
teen watching Red Shoe Diaries late at night, like that is such a 90s thing to mention in this movie.
Especially to guys like Paul and I who probably grew up around that
Don't
time.
lump me in that.
Hey,
Hey,
you knew what Red Shoe Diaries are.
I know
so
what it
I
is.
know
That
you
doesn't mean
probably
I
stayed
watched
up
it.
a little bit.
Yeah,
late
I'm over
before
here and I'm
everybody
like,
fell
I don't know
asleep.
what Red Shoe Diaries is.
Red
But
Shoe Di-
also, they also sneak a Hanson and a Jewel reference.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
It didn't
this
date
is
you
true.
enough.
Because that's how they made fun of the dancers. Like, we don't want to go to the dance and
So,
just do
yeah.
a bunch of Jewel and Hanson.
Yeah, so they convince him like, hey, you should throw some pants on and run over there and take her book back.
I think at one point, Seth Green's character goes, just go talk to her.
He does. He's got a lot of sense in this movie.
He does.
And again, to
even for a stoner, he's
and to
on
convey
top
how
of
much of
things.
a burnout Anton actually is, he didn't realize he wasn't wearing any pants.
No, not at all. But
Because
they
you-
thought he was going to go get laid. Just run over
Well,
there.
I think part of that was like,
Well, he did
just,
say first impressions.
yeah.
That's what they
Well,
told
okay,
him.
first impressions is one like first impressions, but you've been living next to this bitch for 7 fucking years or whatever.
Well, you
they said.
should at
Yeah.
least have pants on.
Yeah,
for the first.
She's got an impression of this guy already. And so yeah, and I think part of it too was like just guys ribbing on other guys, be like, hey, yeah, you should go talk to her. Go fucking do it. Yeah, she's totally gonna fucking invite you in,
and he's gonna embarrass himself, and we gonna laugh.
Yes. Well,
her
this
parents
is the
are
first
never
time.
home. Go over there.
This is the first time we kind of see that Mick and Penub are closer than they are with Anton. Like it's those two kind of.
They're the buddies.
They're the buddies, and Anton's kind of like the.
Well, he's like, if you are the burnout of the stoner
burnouts,
friends,
yeah.
like if you're the burnout of your group of stoner friends, then it's kind of like, well,
Maybe it's time to talk to somebody
we'll
if you are the
see 'em when
burnout of
we
your
see
stoner
'em.
friends. Just as a PSA, get some
Yes.
help, kids.
if you're the one that they can't count on the most,
Right.
call someone.
If they're the one, if they're like weed is great, but you got to get it together, then it's time. It's time to talk to somebody, maybe.
Yeah, but nobody's there to tell him otherwise of his parents.
No,
say
and he
no.
doesn't seem to care that his parents aren't there. He's just good.
Plus, his parents gotta fucking know. It's like, you don't have asthma, Anton. Why are you carrying that thing? Oh, you just in case? Like, come on. Oh, Scooter would never do that.
Well, that was the culture of the 90s, was just ignore and deny.
Ignore.
Everything is happy.
That was our generation's
Scooter would never
parents.
do that.
They all just pretended. Like, I came home smelling like weed lots of times as a teenager. Nobody said shit to me.
Apparently, in movies, nobody knows what weed smells like.
Nope, not at
There's
all.
several movies where, like,
I know Anton's sitting there getting high on the couch, and I'm like, his whole
Hey.
fucking living room would stink.
he lit the
He lit
incense.
the incense. Remember?
He lit like 3 sticks of incense.
I don't care. Then it's gonna smell like incense with an undertone of weed. Is what it's
Are you
gonna
burning
smell.
incense weed, Anton? Scooter!
Everybody can smell the weed under incense. I don't know what people think incense does.
Well, his parents don't care.
Yeah.
Apparently. Or are just oblivious to everything. So they convince him to go, and that's when Penub's like, oh, look at this bag of weed I actually do have. Mm-hmm. Let's hit Tits McGee and wait for whatever happens with
Explain who
Anton.
Tits McGee is.
Tits
'cause-
McGee is the bong with the boobs that they hit.
Which I take umbrage with, because that thing would be like maybe $150 back in that day. Like, where are those kids getting that money?
They're lily white kids who can do no wrong in their parents' eyes.
Yeah, they've
So they got money from their parents to get Tits McGee, the
they've
big
saved
bong?
up. They've saved up from
You saw
Christmases
that
and
basement.
birthday.
You saw that basement. You really think your parents are going to let you decorate your basement like that?
I suppose.
Oblivious parents,
Oblivious
non-existent.
parents. And then after Anton leaves, we have the most accurate meet cute in a movie. Anton goes to bring her back her notebook. We'll get back to the notebook in a second. But goes to bring her notebook, and he's working up the courage, and she notices him there, opens the door.
Whoa,
Anton just bails.
First off, he smells the fucking book.
He does.
Yeah.
He picks it
smell.
up and he smells the book, and I'm like, what is wrong with you, man?
There's a whole like culture of crazy, creepy things in
Maybe
this
okay,
film.
he's a smeller, is what you're saying. All right, it's just setting up for future. He's a sniffer. He's gonna get
He's
arrested.
a
He's
sniffer.
well, what do you
Don't
call it? A smeller?
that.
Is a smeller better? He's a sniffer. All right. Hey, he smelled her fucking lyrics book. He's a sniffer. All right. So he smells the book and he's looking through it, and you see her fucking ransom note poetry.
Yes,
where she's
ransom
cutting
letter
out the
lyrics
fucking
is
letters
what
and
I wrote.
shit.
Ransom letter lyrics.
So
Which
then
is-
finally that's when, he knocks and shit and he's starting to chicken out. So she opens the fucking door and he almost knocks her over by shoving the book.
and runs. And she
And just
goes
runs
like,
and
hey,
he's just like nervous
hey,
and she's like, hey,
hey,
She's yelling after him.
hey.
He's just walking, looking straight ahead. Just like, nope, I can't do this.
Like, if
I
I
bail.
ignore her, she can't see me. If I
with
ignore her,
no
she can't see me.
shoes, but at least he's got pants on.
No, he didn't have shoes.
He's got his mom's
No,
sexy
no, he
shoes.
doesn't
no,
have
I
those.
think-
He's
Oh
got
no!
shoes.
He
Didn't
borrowed
make- yeah.
somebody's shoes. So
They,
he
borrowed
really,
they
pants and
lent
shoes.
him.
well, why would you hang out with this kid? He comes over and steals your pants and your fucking
Yeah.
shoes. Like,
And he uses the classic line of "These aren't my pants" a little bit later.
Yes,
he does.
He
Okay,
does.
so next we end up in Beaver, Utah with Sister Liquor.
Sister Liquor.
Sister Liquor, who's looking for the hand, basically.
Well, I'll tell you, Sister Liquor.
That's liqueur.
Sister Liquor. That's
Starring
hilarious.
the badass Vivica A. Fox. She is so great in this movie. I love her. She is Debbie LaCure in the film, and she is tasked with finding the one possessed with the possessed hand.
And she's got a whole wardrobe of outfits.
Yeah.
prepared.
Yeah,
She is prepared
goes
in her
back to
Airstream.
She goes back to the Airstream to be like, damn it, this is The hand's already gone. How does she know the hand's already gone? The guy's just standing there all freaked out, and he's got like a shriveled paw.
Yeah, it's like
So
a
I'm
little
is
monkey
that,
paw.
Is that how you know?
Yeah,
Like,
I assumed that's how she knew because it was all like.
I assumed that he was dead, and that's how you can tell it was gone because the hand was all shriveled up.
No, he was sitting up.
he was
in
standing
jail.
there like drooling on
Yeah.
himself. All right, so Sister Liquor leaves, and she's convinced that it's got to be somewhere else. And she's got all these newspaper clippings on her wall. She's trying to track everything, and she looks and sees that in Bolin, which is the town that Anton, Penub, and Mick live,
In Bolin, California.
that there have been some murders happening. And so she marks it on her map and realizes it's a pentagram.
Dun dun dun.
Well, she doesn't realize it's a pentagram until she finishes the circle.
Yeah, she makes it, and then she makes the star, and then does a circle. But when I was looking, I'm like, there are 2 extra stars on top that are randomly up there. Like, did you mark those prematurely?
Yes,
or like,
that's
what's
what
the
I
plan?
assumed.
Like,
I assumed that those 2 marks were meant to be like, see, she's been following it.
so then those were some leads that didn't pan out or
Yes,
something.
those were
so,
leads.
So she's like, shit, it's got to be in this little shit town of Bolin or Middle America, or what do you call it?
It's Bolin, California.
It's California, but like with middle income, I
Middle
guess. Middle
suburbia.
class, middle
Suburbia.
suburbia. Is what
Suburbia.
I'm saying. So she fires up her silver red bullet airstream and
Heads on out to California.
Heads on out to California.
Okay, so next time we see Anton, he is coming back from a food run. He's got his dog food, he's got some snacks, and he's going through this creepy alleyway that
apparently-
is just covered in smoke.
apparently he took a trip to a Nightmare on Elm Street, because that's what it totally reminded me of, like
Yes.
with all the fog, and he's just
He
walking through. And,
Did give that look of, what is all this fog?
you know, he kind of goes like, where the fuck is this coming from?
Yeah, he does look like this is creepy, what's going on. And then randomly he gets tackled by 2 police officers.
Who he knew in high school.
He mentions that he's like, hey, I know you guys. You were seniors when I was freshmen. And they give him crap for not inviting them to smoke weed behind the bleachers or whatever the hell they said.
He's like, maybe you should have done that now. He's like, well, you guys were dorks back then.
And they're still dorks today as they fleece him and find him an empty baggie on him.
Yeah, so they've got to be like 22, and they're cops, and they're just kind of inept completely, as you'll see later on even.
And Anton, being the stoner that he is, asks cops if they're holding.
Well, yeah, they asked to search him, and he's like, these aren't my pants. I'm like... You know how many times the cops probably heard that? Like, these aren't my pants. So
aren't my
whatever
pants.
you find in these pants are not mine.
Not mine.
But what do they find? The cleanest fucking weed
Baggie.
baggie
Yes,
ever. Like,
so
no
clean.
residue, whatever. Like, you
There's
couldn't
no
even
little
charge me with
bits.
this.
There's nothing.
Nothing
this
in there,
bag.
so they get him with a $200 fine for littering instead.
He was like, I didn't litter, and then they just end up dropping the baggie on the ground.
And fun fact about that alleyway and the neighborhood in general, it was actually the same neighborhood that the 1978 Halloween was filmed in. So if it looks familiar, that's why. Which kind of gives it another creepy layer, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, especially thinking about it when you watch it the first time, everything seems familiar because it is. And so, like, when you watch it, you're like, ooh, it's creepy.
That scene was kind of out of place, though.
Yeah, it definitely was. I feel like there are a few scenes and the intro that are kind of out of place in this.
Yeah. Well, I think at that point they might have not realized what they were actually going to do. Because they
Yeah.
know how movies change all the time. So
Yeah.
they probably could have had a more serious tone.
I think the movie they set out to make and the movie they ended up making were completely different.
Yeah, and it does kind of feel that way, but at the same time, this movie is so fun. It's just a fun ride, and it's so fast that you don't even know, like, you don't get bored. It's just from one thing to the next.
Okay, so now Anton finally returns home, and
He gets
tries-
home and he's going to try what Penub suggested, and he's got his oregano and nutmeg, and he rolls it up in the ticket that he just got.
And then he
which is
has the dog
which is
lick it.
It's a true stoner thing to like, all right, well, fucking smoke this out of this
Yeah,
ticket,
it's
ticket,
definitely a cliche from that era of what people thought weedies were like.
Yeah, and he has the dog lick it, and I was like, oh,
I
you're,
know,
you're
it's
gonna
like, don't
smoke.
smoke
You're
it.
smoking dog balls, man. Why would
Ugh.
you have the dog lick that?
And that thing's never going to dry.
I love
Like,
that
it's going
dog.
to be so long just to get that thing lit. But anyway.
We all had friends that did stupid shit like that.
Oh, yes, for sure.
I never knew anyone that smoked nutmeg or oregano, but in about 8th grade, I knew somebody that heard, well, if you dry banana peels and smoke that, and they fucking tried it, and I don't think it did anything.
Did you guys ever hear the pickle juice will get you drunk thing?
I
No.
don't know.
Yeah, I heard that. It was like pickle juice, and if you added salt to it, it would get you drunk. I'm like, that's not safe.
So if there's a lesson to be learned, any type of urban legend thing,
It's
no.
not true.
Try it and let us know what happens.
No.
could.
Scary
No.
Nerd does not condone.
No.
No.
Don't try this at home. But if you do, let us know what happens.
Okay, so he finally
smokes
decides
it. He lights that thing up and immediately hacks up his lungs.
he regrets it immediately.
Immediately. He runs to the kitchen and he's throwing water in his mouth. He's got
The
dish
dirtiest
soap.
sink ever.
The
by way.
dirtiest sink.
Well,
That mom
Mom-
would have kept a cleaner sink. But
Well, that's another tell that the parents haven't been around in a while.
yes, but another fun fact is after the nutmeg and oregano scene, that scene where Devon Sawa was putting dish soap in his mouth, that was real dish soap that Devon chose to use, apparently.
Method actor.
A method
That
actor.
actor.
Did
So
he-
that begs
did
to
he
differ.
really get
Did he
high?
smoke weed? Because I want to know
No.
if they were
Well,
pretending
if-
to smoke.
If
you know
he
what
was
I mean?
a method actor, did he actually smoke nutmeg and oregano?
Oh, God, I don't know.
Ooh,
I
I
hope
don't even
not.
wanna think that now.
Devon Sawa, please email us. We need to know the condition of your lungs.
So after he cleans out his mouth and he's like, all right, well, that didn't work, so fuck it. There's nothing a bologna sandwich can't fix.
Yep, and he's back to listening to his metal music, and the 2000s child in me just
I
loves
was
it.
trying to figure out who he was listening to.
And that scene, I don't remember.
All I remember was the video of a bunch of like stripper girls
Yeah,
dancing around, and that's what was holding his attention.
that seems to be what holds their attention, him and the friends, most often throughout this film.
Well, they're high school kids. What do you want? So he's making his sandwich and not even noticing that, holy shit, there's jelly all over this knife that I just dipped into my Miracle Whip.
Which is
No.
supposed to be
Which is
blood.
blood. Which is blood. It's this horrible looking blood, but
I wrote bloody sandwich.
Well, the thing that was disgusting was how much
besides the
mayonnaise-
Miracle Whip,
Oh,
How
Miracle
much
Whip is
mayonnaise
so
he was putting on there,
Miracle
though.
Whip is disgusting.
He coated that sandwich
it's
with that
disgusting.
mayonnaise Miracle Whip.
Well, it's pretty clear that he's not
You're-
used to making his own food.
You are either you grew up super poor or you're the devil's bride if you enjoy Miracle's Whip.
No.
Miracle
Miracle's Whip.
Miracle's Whip. That's what I'm saying. Miracle's Whip.
Miracle's Whip. So he notices all the blood.
He sees the blood on the knife, and then he's looking down and he sees the cat is licking up an eyeball.
The cat eye. The cat is
Wouldn't this
eating
kitchen smell if there's
Oh.
a fucking bloody eye and like
blood
I
on
don't
the
know,
floor.
Do we call it stale blood? Like
Yeah, you would smell something.
You would smell
know
something
something was
besides-
off.
no.
But maybe he can't smell because he's smelling himself because he hasn't showered.
He smells like weed and nasty Miracle Whip.
There's one scene where I'm like, his hair is so greasy. He's
Again,
so gross
method
in
actor.
this.
Did he just
No.
not shower for a while?
I don't know.
The whole movie.
So he gets scared and he grabs his dog. He hugs his dog.
Again, I love that dog.
Duke,
That dog did some good acting. I don't care.
The killer's here. Run, Duke!
run, Duke.
So they run and hide upstairs, and then
After Anton grabs an umbrella because that's gonna
Yes.
do, a lot against a killer. Even though he just had a giant knife that he put back into.
well, that's
Miracle Whip.
that's evidence now. You can't fuck with that knife.
Hey, it's a knife.
It's got the jelly all over it.
Or he could have just turned around and grabbed another knife instead of.
Well, if there really was a killer, he probably would have scared him off with Miracle Whip more than he would
Oh,
with the fucking
whatever.
knife.
So he runs upstairs.
Because it's gross.
So he runs upstairs and he's in his mom's room because that's naturally where you go when you're terrified, is to your parents' room.
Yeah.
And he is looking for the phone blindly under the sheet. And he's tapping around, trying to find things, and he hits the alarm clock like you do when you're scared. And then that's when he freaks out and he flips over and he sees that I'm under the bed. And he's like, run, Duke! And he runs back downstairs and trips on the umbrella that he had left downstairs when he got spooked the first time.
And
then
that's when he runs into his dead parents, who are in the
pumpkin farmers.
pumpkin farmers that they had decorated. That the killer, quote unquote, had time to just throw them in there.
He had time. The killer, quote unquote, threw them in there, but cleaned up no blood and left an eye on the floor.
Well,
That's
that's
a
a lot of
giant mess.
that's a lot of stuff to do.
You couldn't
know,
pick
for
up the
being-
eye?
Well,
You just
you're
leave
right.
it on the ground.
Okay, it's one hand connected to a lazy stoner asshole. So
I
how much
suppose.
energy you think the fucking one hand had to do all this shit?
I guess. So maybe he should have picked
It's
somebody
not
not
my
so
house.
idle.
Fuck it.
I don't know. If you have the good sense to hide some bodies, you can at least pick up an eyeball. Throw it
Well,
in
that's
there.
why the movie is Idle Hands, not so idle.
Not
hands.
so idle hands. And so he runs outside and throws up after seeing his parents, which is very true to life. If you saw your parents dead, you'd probably have some sort of reaction to it.
You'd freak out.
You'd
Was
freak
it
out.
was it the parents that he threw up, or was it the fucking Miracle Whip?
No.
No,
It's
it
a
was the
miracle.
parents. You're so stupid.
Okay, so now he's outside of his house and decides he needs to go get some help.
Nope.
Well, he
Nope.
runs into
Nope.
Penub.
Yeah, his
and,
friends are there.
Well, that's
and
the
Mick.
seeking help.
So they was like, guys, come in here. I got to show you this. And they go in, and MTV is still on. And naturally, Penub and Mick are like, pop that coochie on.
So they start dancing to it.
Yeah, so they're
because boys have one-track minds apparently.
Hey, when you're seeing Two Live Crew and you see a bunch
they're
of...
not even like real boobs. It's just like a top of a nipple. Is that exciting?
It doesn't matter.
You guys have the same thing. It's just a nipple.
It doesn't matter. It was strippers dancing in a music video, and it grabbed their attention.
Boys are weird.
and they were willing to pop that coochie.
Yes.
And so eventually they notice that his parents are lying there dead, and they turn into the classic white boys. They're like, Mr., Mrs. Tobias, are you
You
okay?
Sir,
Yes.
And then Pinup does one of the funnier things in the movie.
Oh, yeah. He tries to perform CPR like he saw on Baywatch.
And he does this
Hey.
by just punching him in the chest 3 times.
Baywatch saves lives.
Baywatch saves lives. But
And they
anyway.
knock over the burger jungle bag that has
Yes.
some trophies in there.
That knock over that burger bag, and they also discover that ant has been written on the floor in blood.
He's like, who's the killer? A bunch of ants? He's like,
And
no,
I,
you idiot.
I love Seth
like an
Green's
evil ant?
like, he's like, look, a clue.
A clue.
The way he says it is
It's
like,
very
a clue.
Scooby Doo. It's very Scooby Doo.
The whole unveiling of who the killer was, I think, was done really, really well, because you're obviously figuring out who the killer is as you're watching it, but yet these 3 idiots have no idea who it is until one of them says, I'm the killer.
The killer wore my shirt.
The killer was wearing me. I like that. I like that line. It's like the killer was wearing me. Once he realizes that he's got the paint on his hands, he understands. Like,
Well, that's the thing. Everything started unveiling.
yeah.
You see where he says, oh, the clue, and then he puts it right up next to the shirt. The killer was wearing your shirt.
And they do see the ears from the jungle burger bag with the onion rings.
And they make the joke of earrings.
Yeah, the
And
two
that's-
lefts.
And that's
It's
two
two
lefts,
lefts.
so you know.
So you know it was them.
And so the friends start freaking out. Penub goes to get high, like you do when you're a stoner. And Mick decides he's going to call 911. And he has that classic line of, what's the number?
What's the number for 911?
What's the number? And
So he's on the phone with them, trying to, like, I think he smoked some nutmeg or something.
my friend
and-
took some nutmeg or something.
There's
And
something
then
wrong with him.
that's when the hand takes over.
Yes.
And he starts controlling Devon Sawa's Anton and rips the phone out of the wall. All hell breaks loose.
And Anton is trying to reason with him. He's like, I would have remembered something like that. I would have remembered killing people. And another classic 90s reference, Mick says, well, if OJ can get off, I mean, you can.
Yeah. Very dated.
It's a very dated.
joke.
But it's all references that we know and love. Like, if a kid watched this today, he's going to know nothing. He's going to know
And what
nothing that's
ultimately
going
did
on.
Seth Green in is he offers Anton a beer, which was his undoing.
Yep, bottle to the head.
Which
So what does that tell you, kids, about underage drinking?
Yep, don't do
it's
it.
bad for you.
But it was so cool. Like, you get those swishing noises, and not just the liquid, but the chunks that hit the bottle. And even when he falls, you hear it kind of moving around. And when Devon's always like, Mick, and he's shaking him, and you hear all of it. And I love that practical effect with the noise as well.
That was done really well.
It's so great.
It wouldn't have been practicable, but I would have loved if they had, like, still beer in the bottle.
Yeah.
Like, every time he moved.
That's
like,
what I was
How would you have
waiting
done it, though? Like, you'd smash the bottle.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's not practical, but I think it would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been.
Blood would have still been stuck in there, though.
Well, yeah, they had blood in there swishing around. Yeah. And then that's when he kind of realizes, oh no, my hand is possessed.
He's like, I think my hand is
I can't
possessed.
control it. And he talks to Penub and he's like, I didn't do that. And he's like, okay, I did it. But he's like, I can't believe you told me to smoke that shit. Like trying to blame him
It's
for
your
telling
fault.
him to smoke the nutmeg and
It's your
oregano.
fault, you dumbass.
It's your fault that my hand is possessed because I was an idiot and listened to you.
All right. So he is chasing Penub around the house and he runs down the stairs into the basement like you do when you're being
Another horror cliche.
another horror cliche.
You run into the room where you can't get out of.
But Devon Sawa is fighting with his hand. Anton is fighting with the hand, and he is really trying to control it and learn what it's doing. And he's like, just go, just run around me. He's like, I don't want to hurt you.
Well,
and
it
then
is
he's like,
funny-
don't.
It is funny that when he goes into the basement, that Anton's like, "No, that's the basement. You can't get out."
Yeah,
Come
he's
back
like,
this
don't go
way."
down that way. There's a basement. There's no way out. And then he's like, I don't want to hurt you. And Penub goes, then don't.
I thought that was a good line.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't want to hurt me, then don't do it.
He does have so many great lines. And then Penub runs around him and runs up the stairs. And then we get a saw blade to the throat, which is so satisfying the first time that you see it. It's one of those classic decapitation scenes for me. It's kind of similar to like the one, it's not a decapitation scene in 13 Ghosts, but when the guy gets cut in half by the window panels and you seal the inside in 13 Ghosts. I put this right up there with that as like, it was like when you first started to see those kinds of scenes in films, you started to get the anatomy more, and the head just falls off and falls down and finishes his last word, which was cool.
It is a great kill, and I think it would have been, it could have been they could have been a little nod to the stoner head with like if smoke would have come out of it, kind of thing, which I think has been done before.
Probably.
But, I mean, come on, it would have been good.
And that's another good thing about this movie is the deaths are so brutal once you actually start to see them.
Yeah, everything, and anytime there's a death that happens, it's brutal in some sort of way. Either it's projectile blood being splattered or, literally hitting a fan.
So now...
Oh, yeah.
So now Anton has killed his parents, he's killed his best friends, he's killed all of these people, and the hand isn't done yet.
No, and he feels very guilty about it. He goes upstairs to sit on the couch and cry. He is having trouble with the fact that he just killed his best friends and his parents.
But the hand
hand
wants to watch TV.
The hand wants TV is what I wrote down. So his hand's like, no, change it. The hand wanted to watch hand porn, basically.
It did. It just kept
weird.
turning on things with hands in it.
Why are there so many like hand movies and like hand things like on TV right now?
And they were all like creepy or horror themed.
Were.
Like
So he has a little bit of a fight with his hand again.
He has a very physical comedic scene here, Devon Sawa. He does this physical comedy very well. He fights with himself in a believable way.
So then at a certain point, it's back and forth, and the hand gets pissed off and is like, all right, well, I'm going to grab your fucking cat and throw him out the window.
Which was
Which
hilarious,
he does.
by the way.
It's another, like, so 90s.
Well, the cat was trying to help.
Like
The cat...
catapult.
Yes, the cat was trying to help. It came over and it was, like, batting at the bad hand because it knows something's up because it's a cat. And
Cats can sense.
And then that hand was just like, well, fuck your cat then. Threw it out the window.
That had me cracking up pretty good, just because that cat went flying.
The cat is named Bones, by the way.
Bones. It's a white cat, which is adorable.
The hand tosses Bones across the street or whatever, and it ends up in Molly's bush. So Anton's out there, and...
He's pissed at his hand because he just chucked his cat. Now he's got to go find his cat.
So he's looking in the bushes, and the hand leads him to the door to ring the doorbell. Because I don't know, did the hand want to kill, or was the hand horny?
I don't know. It's
both.
Both, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know.
It got horny because.
But either way, I wrote down in my notes.
Watch that hand porn. That's
it did. Yeah, it was all.
Oh, that's true.
I put in my notes that the hand forces Anton to talk to a girl because it really does. Even his own self couldn't get himself to talk to this girl.
Even the hand's like, "Come on, dude, get off the pot with this.
You got to talk to her."
All right, let's
rings her doorbell.
Make this happen then.
Like, he's covered in blood and is gross and is dirty. And
hasn't showered and God knows how long.
Smells like stale weed.
He makes the comment that the reason why he's looking for the cat was because they got into a fight. And that cat kicked his ass is what she said.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like, look like you got your ass kicked.
He's like, I did all right.
Then she thanks him for bringing her book back because she didn't get the chance to thank him and says, hey, you want to come inside?
Yeah, come inside, even though you smell and you've got blood all over you. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So she invites him in. She's like, come in my room. And that's when he's like, oh, I love your lyrics. And she kind of gets pissed for a second. She's like, oh, my God, you read them? And he's like, yeah, I have my favorites memorized.
And remember how earlier we said she was a terrible poet? Here's why.
I even got my favorites memorized. Devil girl with nothing to lose. She got wind in her hair and gum on her shoes.
And even though she says, I wrote that when I was 13, I'm like, for 13, that's still shitty. I don't care. Like,
yeah, it's still bad.
Rip that one out of the book, out of your smelly ransom.
Your ransom
notebook lyrics.
Yeah.
And he does try to get out of that room. He's like, it's dangerous. That's what I'm saying. I'm dangerous.
There's a killer on the loose.
He should have just been like, bitch, I have murdered multiple people. I need to get out of here.
He tries to say that by saying that I have done things.
We cut to Debbie, who's in traffic, and she has that line where she's like, there's evil out there, and I've got to kick its ass.
Debbie is such a badass.
Because she's stuck in L.A. traffic, and we've all seen or been stuck in before.
People off the road.
Hey, she is still a badass, even stuck in traffic in her Airstream, okay? She's got her whole costumes with her. She
owned that Airstream.
Yeah.
She was not.
She's such a badass.
Debbie's on her way.
Debbie is not.
Sister Liquor is coming to town.
She's not letting anybody get in her way.
So then we cut back to the bedroom scene where post-coitus, and the parents are driving up the driveway, and she has the line. Molly has the line where she's like, "You better get out of here. I don't think my parents would approve of a dirty, bloody boy banging their daughter."
So he leaves, goes
See,
back
and
home.
she just knows he's dirty. And girls got to have some standards. Girl, you got to love yourself. Okay.
She's young and dumb.
I don't care. You can still smell when you're young and dumb.
That's true.
But that's hot.
No, it's not.
So now Anton has a little bit of remorse because he gives his parents a burial and his best friends a burial and says a little bit of a eulogy.
That's when you start hearing his friends are like, "Get me out of here."
Yeah,
So
Mick pipes up and says, "Hey, I guess you conked me on the head pretty good. I guess I passed
I'm
out."
not dead.
And then Anton has that thing. It's like, "You're dead." And he's like, "No, I'm not." And he's like,
Help,
"Are you
barely-
sure?"
he's
And he
like,
goes,
"Help,
"No,
pick
I
me
know,
up."
fucker. Now take me up.
"Get me out of here." And then he's like, "All right, let me get high quickly."
Yeah,
and I'll
Anton
take
tries
you
to
out."
get high. And then we have the classic undead crawling forth from the grave.
I love that because, again, another thing that you would think is another horror cliche. You got the zombies crawling out of the ground.
And you've got the creepy lights in the background with it because there's like a red light back there.
It's
like
definitely dark.
it's
and
kind of got like a
colored.
creep show
And
feel, like that old comic book kind of.
And the look that Seth Green had on his face was like, he's about to eat you.
Yeah, and he's
Well,
covered
how
in
the
dirt.
fuck do you think you would look if you were like buried and you thought you were still alive and you're like, "Motherfucker, like you hit me in the head, but
and
I'm
you
not
see
dead."
you
Like,
see a headless Panob come out of the ground and grab the shovel, and then Anton almost steps on the head.
yeah, I
Like,
would
"Hey,
watch
watch
it,
out."
man.
They knock out
Panob-
Anton.
Panob knocks out Anton with the shovel, and then Anton wakes up in his bed the next morning.
That's the weird thing that I found is that his friends actually took him up there and put him there.
well, they're
wouldn't-
still friends.
I wouldn't. I don't care. Give me
not
my
gonna
best friend. I wouldn't carry him up to the fucking attic
First of all,
up
he's,
the stupid ladder thing.
you got to carry all that dead weight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because who's gonna carry him? Panub's got no fucking head, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Seth Green's not very big. And then
He
you
is
got to
just
carry
a
him
tiny
up
guy.
those stairs. And I don't know how people get stuff up the stairs in the attic with that little ladder-ass thing that they
Yeah,
have.
it's a tiny little just.
I'm sorry, but my best friend, he would have slept outside. So I'm like, all right, well, he's
If
good.
anything, I would have put him on the couch. But if I got to exert myself by going up the stairs,
yeah,
the attic,
the
but
stairs,
the
and
stairs
then
in the
and then
house.
the ladder.
well,
to the
maybe they
fucking
felt
attic.
bad because
It's
they
a
knocked
lot of,
him out.
It's a lot of work.
Maybe
Even for
they felt
stoners,
bad.
it's a
But-
lot of work.
He killed them. So fuck Anton.
Well, maybe they have hearts of gold, and that's why they didn't go to hell.
The thing that I found funny though is when he does wake up, he's listening to the same
song.
that he woke up
And
to
he assumes
earlier.
it was a dream. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't look down and notice all the blood still
It
on.
was very Groundhog Day,
Yes.
where he just wakes up and is
And
like,
even
"Oh my
he-
god, thank God!"
And
it was
even
a
he
dream."
says that, oh God, he sees his friends and is like, hey guys, I just had
Yeah, he comes
the worst
downstairs and he sees his friend sitting on the couch. And he's like, "Oh, I just had a crazy dream where it killed you." And then as he comes around, he sees that they are dead still because he sees Panub's head sitting,
dream. Well, he sees
trying
Mick's
to
head.
catch the cheese ball.
the cheese balls and the cheese puffs that they're throwing in their mouth. And I love that the friends are so funny after they come back because he's like, "Oh, sorry about that shovel thing." He gets mad and he's like,
You killed us. We
"Yeah,"
have right
he
to
goes,
be mad
"You
at
killed.
you.
Hey, you killed me. Let's keep this thing in perspective."
Yeah, I was like, we had time to get over it. He's like,
Yeah, he's
I
like,
didn't kill you on purpose.
He's like, "I was kind of mad about getting getting killed by my best friend thing, but I've had time to get over it."
Which was what, like a couple hours?
Couple hours.
And there's a random Enya reference in there too.
Yeah, because they talk about
Oh,
how
they-
they went to heaven. They didn't go to hell
Yeah,
because
they
it's not
saw-
like they go around killing people.
Yeah, and they saw the light, but there's like a bunch of Enya music and shit, and we're like, that's too far.
I
Yeah, and
just
then they're like,
love-
"What happened?" He's like, "Fuck it. I mean, it was really far."
I love the subtle jabs that they said at him because I do love that thing where he said, "We don't." He was like, "Why do you think we would go to hell? It's not like we kill people."
Yeah, and they keep pointing out that he is the one that killed them.
They don't let him forget.
No, they don't, and they
So
have the
now-
whole thing about how he needs to figure out what the hand is doing.
Yeah, so they realize that the hand is doing it on its own, and they're like, I don't know, who can we ask about the devil, or who knows about Satan?
And for whatever reason, they say because their neighbor Randy
Randy.
listens
Who likes to listen to heavy metal,
which
that
isn't all that
obviously-
heavy though. He was listening to Quiet Riot.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
and he
wasn't-
had a Quiet Riot T-shirt on, as you'll see in the next scene. I'm like, really, man? Like,
Well, even when Anton goes to ask him, he's like, "It's just like music. It's just louder." Like
Yeah.
that's how he explains it to him. He's
So,
like, "There's
yeah.
nothing inherently evil about
for
it."
whatever reason, he's their local authority on Satan. So they track him. Anton tracks him down at the Burger Jungle, where
So he just walks on to a new job at the Burger Joint. uncle.
when he grabs one of the twins' fucking uniforms
yeah,
that was
the
out on
uniforms.
the memorial thing.
And
The
just
hat.
throws it
and
on.
just
Just
walks
throws it
in and
on.
is like, "Hey, break time, guy." And he's like, "All right, man."
Yeah, the guy from Blink-182.
Did you see
I
him?
did see him,
I
yes.
told you.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, well, he just takes over and is like, "Tell me what you know about Satan." I'm like,
He's like, it's just music, but louder. Like, there's nothing wrong. And he's like, I'm desperate, man. And so he drives around. And then...
Well, the one thing that I liked was when the person who was waiting on their food was like, "Come on, asshole!" You just throws
he's like,
the food
here!
out.
"Yeah, here," and he
Here.
throws the fucking thing.
And then that's when he pulls up to him and he asks him about that whole thing and asks him about what he knows about heavy metal music. And that's when he says, "Oh, it's just music, like Mozart and who's that other dude? Beethoven."
Yeah. And so he goes around to the drive-thru and he's talking to Anton and he's like, he's like, my hand's doing stuff I can't, I can't control it. And
I used to get into a lot of trouble, Anton, but then I started working on the Ford.
yeah. And he's like, idle hands are the devil's playground. And so naturally, just like his mother, he goes home to be a nervous knitter.
He starts knitting.
Mm-hmm. He
and,
grabs her.
and the friends, again, being awesome that they are, start giving him shit for the fact that he's actually knitting.
Oh, yeah. And I love that scene where the head is getting high. Like, Panub's sitting there with his head in his lap and he's getting high. And it's like just coming out of the bottom part of the head. And the head is upside down. So
I
it's
did not notice that. I'm going to have to go rewatch. I did not notice that.
I love that scene.
And some more 90s Rob Zombie music.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
now
Living
that's-
Dead Girl, wasn't that what it was?
It
No,
was
it's
Dragula.
Dragula.
They're
That's
listening
what
to
it was.
Dragula.
Back when Rob Zombie still made good music
Yeah,
before
and-
he started making
And they were
crappy
listening to
movies.
that shit loud enough
That they had a
for-
noise complaint. Somebody called the 2 cops in this town.
who are actually doing some police work now.
Well, maybe they finally got to that call because there's only 2 of them in there.
Yeah.
So
So they decide to break through the door.
Yep, they go in and then they shoot Panub's
shoot
head
Panub's
They
head.
because
freak
he
out.
talks. Yeah, and they're like, they're moored meats. And I was like, what the fuck is a moored meat?
They freaked out because they saw these dead things, and I loved how they shot him in the head.
Yeah, they
He's
shot
like,
him.
"Ow."
And it's so funny because he's like, well, I was going to tell you to do what they say, but now, fuck it, kill him.
Fucking kill him.
his friends turned really quickly like, kill these guys.
Anton is all about going to jail. Anton wants this over,
Well,
and he's knitting still just to keep his hands busy. And he's like, cuff me.
Well, he rationalized it. If I go to jail, I get thrown in an insane asylum in straitjacket. I can't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
So throw me in jail.
And so he's trying to get them to cuff him, and they're like, put down the knitting needles. And he's like, no, I
can't.
can't. Just cuff me.
I love how they went back and forth with the cuff me, no, yeah.
Yeah.
They kept going back and forth with that.
Yeah, cuff me, drop it, like back and forth, and then the hand gets free. The
hand
hand
gets
grabs the knitting, the hand grabs the knitting needles, and puts it right through the head, through the ear.
Which
of
these are
one
my
of the
2
cops.
favorite kills of the movie.
Yes.
The needle through the ear and the hangover prank gone bad with the taser.
Yeah,
to
the
face.
taser to the face, taser face. And I love how after he kills them, like Anton's not okay with it, but his friends are cheering for him. I believe one says, "Go, go, Buffalo."
I don't even know where that came from.
He
That was
says,
awesome.
I was looking that up because there is a... Okay, listen, per IMDb, when Anton kills the 2 police officers, Panub shouts out, "Go, go, Buffalo." This is a reference to a deleted scene in which Anton remembers the 2 police officers as the head and ass of the school mascot, Go, Go, Buffalo.
That's where that came
Wow,
from.
that makes it even
apparently-
better.
So they didn't cut that out, but they cut out the other part. So apparently, like, when he met them, he's like, "Yeah, I remember you guys were seniors when I was,
A
freshman."
freshman.
And that's probably he probably went into it a little bit more. Like,
Yeah,
you
then.
were the Buffalo.
Yeah. So,
So that makes more
Anton's
sense
had.
because it's just a random go-go Buffalo. Like,
Yeah,
what
it
the hell
is. It's just
that?
random, and it's so like
It's such a quick cut too. You're
it's
like,
such
what
a
the
joyous,
fuck?
like
what the hell was
victorious yell. It's like he does it so perfectly. He's like, "Yeah,
Go,
kill
go,
those
Buffalo."
fuckers." And so Anton has had enough.
He's like,
of
"I'm
this
done."
hand. He's like, I can't keep doing this. And then he gets that crazy look in his eye and runs off to the kitchen.
Idea.
Ding.
Eureka, light bulb,
Mm-hmm.
light bulb. So the next thing we see him is he has his hand in the bagel cutter.
It's
The bagel guillotine. I knew you
And
were
they make the
gonna
joke
know that.
about how
It won't
Oh.
even cut my bagels.
Yeah, I won't even cut my bagels.
But
you-
Anton tries it anyway.
and you can see this coming from a mile away. It doesn't do a damn
No,
thing.
and
Doesn't work.
so he asks Mick to hand him the electric knife, and Mick gives us a wonderful horror movie reference.
Oh, look at me! Look at me! I'm Leatherface! Thanks, Mick.
I love that because it's such a classic horror movie, and to just throw a reference in there, and it's a completely made up reference, obviously, because Leatherface doesn't say any lines. But it's
And the
hilarious.
idiotic thing about that, though, it was an electric knife that was plugged in.
Yes. So eventually,
Yeah, so as soon as he took his first step, it was like, oh, it's
Yep.
not plugged in anymore.
and
So since that didn't work, they come up with another thing.
Yep, Anton pulls out a giant knife, and he's like, I'm just going to do this. And he starts trying to chop the hand off, but the hand fights back and moves. And Panub is like, I can't watch this. So he picks up his head and turns it around so he doesn't have to watch what's
And
about
Seth
to go
Green
down.
again giving him shit. You missed.
And so he finally realizes, he's like, Panub, bite down. So he puts the hand in Panub's mouth, and Panub says, don't cut me, man.
Again, these guys are awesome. With
They
this.
have
Yeah.
so
The
many
line-
quotes in this movie that you can use in so many different ways. And I've used so many of these quotes over time.
The little lines in the movie are awesome just because of that. Don't cut me, man.
So he finally manages to cut the hand off.
And he thinks, oh, I'm over this. Finally.
I'm free, but then Mick is like, bring in the iron. He's like, what are you doing? He's
Yeah.
like,
I
we
don't
gotta
know how-
cauterize the wound.
So we gotta
man."
cut her with the wound, don't you? Or we gotta stop the blood flow. Don't
Yeah.
you watch
He's
ER?
like, no,
and
but
He's like, hey, we've got a first aid kit at Panub's house, in which Panub's like, and burritos.
and burritos.
burritos.
Because the head is hungry, when you don't have a stomach attached to it, you still get hungry.
So
So-
they just leave. I just love
So
those.
yeah,
I know, they're so fun. They
They-
have so many great lines in this film.
they leave, and Anton has a moment where he's like, I'm getting a little woozy, man, and sits down for a second, and then notices the hand is
No longer where it was.
basically
He-
has a mind of its own. and
He
is
writes the
wrong
hand, writes in blood.
Yeah, he
Wrong move.
Bad move, I thought it was. Bad move.
Well, either
but
way.
whatever,
Bad move,
yeah.
Anton. Yeah, bad move, Anton. Written in blood on the floor. And then Anton's like, oh, fuck. And he gets back up.
Like, oops.
Then the doorbell rings, and he's having this hand fight, and it's Molly
Wanting to
coming
know where he
over to
is.
be like,
It's time for the
it's
dance.
time for the dance, blah, blah, blah. He's having this whole fight and ends up getting the hand and doing what I call the Gremlins microwave thing, where he throws
yes.
the hand in, turns the microwave on, and is like, yeah, fucker, take that.
Take that. I got you.
And
You're
then at
dead
this
now.
point, Molly's trying to come in, and he runs to the front door and basically pushes her out again, closes the door, and then I wrote down, like, she's giving him fucking boyfriend tips already. Like, well, if you needed more time, like, you could have told me or could have called me, blah, blah, blah.
She knows
like,
who he is. She knows that he needs specific directions. And
By only knowing him for a couple days and a couple hours, she already knows
They
exactly
lived
who she
across
is.
the street from each other.
They haven't
for
talked,
7
though.
years.
They haven't talked.
He sits behind her in biology.
You saw her, or you saw him when he gave her book back. He had something that was of hers, and he still couldn't talk to her.
Yeah.
But she knows who he is.
Okay, yeah, so she understands that he needs specific directions about being a boyfriend.
Yeah, but
So while the
they're not
so-
even dating, man.
So while Molly and Anton are talking, Peanut and Mick come back with the
Antiseptic and burritos.
no, not just
Antiseptic
that, and the band-aids that don't go
The,
ouch.
the no ouch kind.
The no ouch.
No ouch kind. That's right. That's what they said.
Oh, also, fun fact, the handwork done in this film when it wasn't attached to Devon Sawa is also done by the actor who did The Thing in the Addams Family. His name was Christopher Hart.
So then they decide we're hungry, so we can't find Anton, and cook the burritos. And they look at the microwave, and they're like, "Ew."
And they're like, ooh, shouldn't we clean it? And he's like, well, yeah, and while we're at it, we'll just clean the whole fucking house.
Which was an awesome line by Seth Green. It's like, we clean that.
That's typical teenager. Like, I don't care how dirty it is. I don't fucking live here.
I used to quote that
So-
so much. Like, that was one of my main quotes. I'd be like, well, while we're at it, why don't we just clean the whole fucking house? Like, I used to say that all the time.
You know what? I think I'm gonna start using that
You
too. When
should.
anybody tells me to clean something, it's like, "Why don't you?" Yeah.
Yeah. it's
I
a
always say,
good
well, why
line.
don't I just do everything?
Yeah, no, I quote this movie
So
specifically.
while on their quest for burritos, they inadvertently let the hand out.
And it flies out the window, crashing through the windows, and they're just like, meh.
It happened so quick. Maybe they didn't know what the fuck it was.
And then they
They
just
didn't care.
throw the burrito
They
in the
didn't care.
microwave and go about their business.
So Anton comes back and sees them eating burritos and pissed off at him. Was like, "Hey, there was only 2 of them."
It's like, you let the hand out.
Again, the idiocy of the friends that made them awesome was the fact that they didn't think that they let the hand out. They were more worried about their burritos and him
Yeah,
being
and
pissed
that
off.
going back to the microwave scene, I love that he nukes the hand and you get the little like pops of blood as it
It's
comes
got like
out.
the little
and-
bubble.
Yeah.
Like the bubble boil under the skin.
like
I
you
think
can just
is really
see
good.
it's deteriorating, like all the little pieces and sizzling out, and it's just a really great gory scene that's done really well.
So they realized, okay, now we need to get to the dance. How do we get to the
Well,
dance?
first, they eat their burritos.
Yes, they do.
They eat their burritos, and
Mitch finally has enough of what's-his-face, Peanut, not being able to...
yes,
carrying around
he
his head.
finally
He
has
gets-
enough
he gets
about the
tired of it.
head, and he decides he's going to fix it with a...
Looks like tongs. No, not
it's a
tongs.
fork.
Poker.
It's like a grill fork or something.
Yeah.
Ingenuity.
So I called
Ingenuity.
it fork head.
Fork head, yeah. So he fixes them on there, and then he passes them a burrito, and you get to see the burrito again as it comes out the wound.
And the
And
universal lesson of duct tape fixes
I don't
everything.
know what they used for that, but it looked like apple butter or something.
Yeah.
It was just gross looking.
It looked like, you know, that chili that you can get at gas stations that comes out of the thing. Like you just push it and it comes out. You know what I'm talking about? Next to the
that just brings
cheese.
terrible
Yeah, that's what it
flashbacks.
looks like.
It comes in that big bag.
Yeah,
It's just
that's what it looked like.
like, just
Chili
comes out of
and
the
cheese
thing.
should not be disposable, especially at the gas station. No. It just gives me horrible
That's what it
flashbacks.
looks like. But yeah, great job, art department.
Yes. So now
So
they
as they're figuring out what they're gonna do, we get to the bowling alley where Sister Liquor is trolling for hand, is what I said, because he's looking at everybody's hand while they're bowling, or just kind of sitting there. So she's looking for a lazy guy with idle hands. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess the bowling alley is where you'd start.
No, that's because that's where the maid,
Oh, wait, my
the
bad. No, no.
barmaid was murdered.
the
barmaid was
Yeah.
Yeah,
murdered
that's what it
at
was.
the
Because it was
bowling alley.
it was bowling.
bowling. Bowling alley.
Because I'm thinking she went to bowling to try to find it, because obviously you can't find the mail.
Well, why would you go where someone was already murdered?
Well,
That
that's
doesn't
just her
make
first
sense.
step.
That's her. Well, she couldn't find the.
Well,
mail
I guess it
carrier
worked
person.
out in the end. She's
Yeah.
like, all right, well, if I can't find the hand here, maybe I'll bowl a few frames, get some drinks, and kind of call it a night. We'll just get started tomorrow.
So she's at the bowling alley, and Randy comes up to her, and you can see by her face, she clearly understands what Randy's looking for. And so she says yes to a drink, and they go sit down, and Randy asks what brings her to bowling.
Really? Yeah.
Okay. Here it goes. I come from a long line of Druidic priestesses sworn to fight a certain evil force that possesses the laziest fuck-up it can find. It will kill as many people as possible, and then drag a free soul into the netherworld.
So conveniently, Randy does know somebody whose hand has been acting up.
Because Anton was like, "Hey, my hand is doing things I don't want it to do."
Yeah, so
Hey, I was at the Burger Jungle today, and after, I had a really weird tasting milkshake, but Anton told me that his hand was doing things it didn't want him to.
So she
And
yells
he's a
at him.
lazy bastard.
So she yells at him, "Take me to this loser."
Anton and his buddies still looking for the hand, and they go back to the backyard and discover a message has been left by the hand for Anton, and it says she's mine, and it's written in blood on the fence. So naturally Anton knows that the hand is going after Molly.
So he goes back into it and tell his friends, like, we need to get to the dance. They're like,
And then we have another
the hand's off. It's not your problem anymore.
it's not, you need to take a little Anton
Let's have some
time.
Anton time and relax.
They try to get him to get stoned, and this is the one time he doesn't want to get stoned, and he starts to try to make a speech, and Mick cuts him off, and it's another great quotable line. It says, no Kevin Costner speeches. Let's just go.
It really is, because I think it was supposed to be like Anton's coming of age story. It was like,
Yeah.
Another cliche.
Yeah,
that usually
but his
gotta-
friend has no fucking time for it. He's like, nope, I don't want to hear it. Let's just go. We're going.
I just love little nuances that they have.
Yes.
They're key plot progressors.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing I
they
like.
make fun of their own movie and their own cliches that they're using in this film, which
So
is
they decide
great.
we need to get to the dance.
let's get there. And they go to steal Randy's truck, and they're like, oh, no keys. And I love that when they pull the visor down, and Seth Green as the line is like, well, that was lucky.
Yeah.
Another
It
cliche.
really is. He's just like, no one fucking does that. In
Nobody
real
Who
life.
leaves
does
them
that?
out there.
Even in 2019 that we're in.
Yeah.
People it's
Nobody's
still
gonna
in
do that.
movies.
But-
I don't get it.
So now we see the hand is. I wrote kiss, kissing, kiss, because you got the two kids making out, and they're both dressed. They're both dressed as
Another
Kiss
horror
characters.
cliche, by the way.
But making out or dressing up as Kiss.
No, horror cliche of them making out and what they're about to do.
And why, if she's in high school, are we seeing boobs? And I also wrote, you couldn't feel another hand?
She
Yeah.
does.
She doesn't feel it
She
for
doesn't
first.
feel it at first because he's got the two hands on the boobs, and then the idle hand is in the middle of both boobs.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's a very weird, you would feel that, and then all of a sudden, like, you don't even see her death. You just see the hand grab her neck.
And snaps it. You hear it.
You hear the snap, and then the guy, you just see exploding blood again. Again, the director of this film loves that practical effect of the blood splattering everywhere. Like, it's got a splat.
It's good. It works.
It does work for this film very well, because it's a tongue-in-cheek thing. Like, nobody's
another
blood is coming out like
another
that.
Splat kill.
Yeah.
Like that.
And so we get inside to the dance, and we get
to the high school dance and see why the fuck do they have a band? Like, what high school?
The Offspring.
Let alone the Offspring.
What high schools have fucking bands that play? Like,
this is one of those things that Hollywood thinks that happens in Middle America, or children's.
It's like, look how cool these people are in this movie.
Not just Middle America. It's just the cliche that Hollywood has is that a live band would be playing a dance in some weird no-name town.
Yeah, it's fucking. You always had a weird DJ that was like, the history teacher's fucking nephew or some shit that's trying to do something with his life.
Yeah, and
Friend of a friend.
It was never a band. It was the DJ. Like, we always had DJs. There was no band.
That's like any band that you would get to actually play a high school dance would not be very good.
No,
I feel like it would be like the shop teacher's band that he does on the weekends. Like, what the fuck?
Scrantonicity?
No, no. I was thinking Joe Caputo and
Side
Boob or what
Side Boob
Side
and
Boob.
Orange is the New Black. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
that kind of band is what you would get in a fucking high school dance.
Another fun fact about this scene is that Jim was the same Jim that was used in Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie and Jawbreaker. So if it looks familiar, that's why.
They just recycle a lot of these.
They did. They recycled a lot of things. But it works because they're all familiar and you feel like it's familiar. You know something's about to go down in this gym.
And I love, though, the friend, what was her name? Katie, I think?
Tanya.
Mm-hmm. Where the fuck did
I don't know where you got Katie.
I think that's her real name, actually. So Tanya sees Penub and Megan's like, "Oh my god, I love your makeup!" Like,
who did your makeup?
Like, well, I guess Anton did it.
So now we get the hand that finally makes its way into the school.
Yep, and it stumbles upon a very pervert principal.
Well, he started off because he's on the phone you hear him complaining and you don't know where it's going, but you find that he's pissed because the call-in sex line is declined his...
No, they got the wrong number.
They had the wrong credit card number, so he wasn't getting his phone sex fast enough.
Hey, he's an adult. He can do what he wants.
At school in the principal's office while you're supposed to be chaperoning a dance?
Well, he got bored.
Yeah, he got bored.
And isn't the dance so that everybody can be safe, like, together and people can watch them?
Yes, strength in numbers. Everyone inside the dance is watching out for each other. So if anything, it's his own fault that he gets murdered because he got away from the pack.
It's true. And I also take umbrage with the fact that he didn't feel that hand crawling up his leg. So pervert principal gets it right in the gut.
Dick Dietrich. Old character
and then we see Debbie and Randy arrive at the dance.
I called his death the hand job kill.
So Debbie and Randy get to the dance and they find Randy's Ford, which is still in pristine condition, which Randy is happy about, but he's not happy that Anton took it.
Yeah, he wants to kick his ass.
We next see that the hand has found a pencil sharpener and has given himself claws.
Pencil sharpener, and he's got razor sharp claws now.
Again, you can really see that this is somebody who's done, like with the hand, you can see that it's somebody who's done hand acting before.
The accomplished hand actor.
Yeah, I mean, he was Thing, so you get the same kind of movements in just a little creepier form, but it still works. What they do, like, obviously that actor had, done it before with green arm stuff, you know what I mean? And was used to everything, so
now we get Anton running around the school, frantically trying to find Molly.
And he stumbles upon Debbie, who's like, "I can help you. I know what you need." And she's like, "This," and it's a knife. And she's like, "Die!"
her druid Kandarian dagger of death that's going to... And then Randy's like,
"Fuck him up, Debbie.
Fuck him up, Debbie." I love that, too.
She was carrying that thing around and it looked like a book from the get-go.
Yeah, and she opens it.
You can't just openly carry the fucking... Especially when you're at a high school and, like, there's a murderer in the fucking town. It's not like you can be like... And again, no fucking security. If you got, like,
security.
These two actual fucking adults just walk into the high school dance. They leave the truck just in the middle of the fucking lane to get out of the parking lot or whatever, and no one's watching shit.
No.
The funny thing that I found about the parking lot is they had just wet it down, because did you notice how it was wet and all the time?
Oh, any scene outside is wet. Any ground scene is like 90% is wet.
It makes the ground look better in movies.
Yeah.
Any cinematographer always, if you've had asphalt, they wet it.
Okay.
Any movie.
Mm-hmm. And so Debbie finds out that he's cut his hand off,
Well,
and
yeah,
he's like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
let
it's like,
it
look at
loose?
my nub, bitch. Like, the hand is gone.
So she's pissed off because now he let it loose.
Yeah, and so he's like, "It's fine, I let it loose," and she's like, "No, it's gonna take your girlfriend to hell at midnight." And he's like, "Oh great, we have time." And she's like, "No, it's 6 minutes to midnight, druid
Well,
time."
he looks at. I thought what was funny to me is when he looked at the clock. He's like, "Oh, it's not even."
It's a
9
little bit
o'clock
after,
yet."
around 9 o'clock or whatever, And she's like, "Oh, look at my druid watch."
Yes, it's got a little flip up thing, so you know it's a real
Well,
druid
you
watch.
gotta hide that. You can't have druid time in plain view.
And it's so funny because he's just like, "Druid time, okay."
Like we got 6
yeah,
minutes.
what's
till midnight.
what's the ratio
What's
of
the
Pacific
change,
time to druid time? Because I'm
Yeah,
like, is it just
nobody
Eastern
knows.
time? Because like it was almost 9, and she said midnight. So
So they head back into the dance, into the main part of the dance, where Panub is making out with Tanya, and Mick is like, "That is illegal."
yeah, I wrote down it's illegal, for them.
And
She gets to know.
Anton and Debbie and Randy all get back to the gym, and Anton goes to try to stop the dance and explain what's going on, and he grabs the mic and gives his whole hocus pocus spiel.
Another cliche. He tells everybody, "You're gonna die. Go home."
I didn't see Hocus Pocus. I saw Encino Man, where he's a caveman.
And I love that they pan back over to the friends, and it's like, it's true. His hand killed us yesterday.
Yeah.
We're dead.
Like, he's not lying. We're
And
dead.
Panub's like, "Yeah, sliced me up real good."
Let's make it.
So the crowd's not buying it. They start throwing shit at him.
Nope. And Offspring pushes him out the way and is like, "Let's
Well,
get
not
going."
Offspring, just Dexter, just the one.
Just
guy.
Dexter.
It wasn't the whole band.
And then scalped. He gets scalped by the hand.
He got his muffin cap. They peeled his muffin cap
back blue. Nobody gets that reference unless
They
you
will. They
explain
will.
it.
They will. So now everybody's in panic mode because
Yep, the hand goes all Carrie White
So,
on things, is knocking shit off the
Very,
ceiling.
very Carrie-esque in that
Yes.
whole scene. Everyone's trying to get out.
The same thing. It's very
doors-
Buffy too, because it
Yes,
says the
it's
same
true.
gym, and they
Yeah.
go after him. You see the windows breaking out. It's very familiar. It's all the same place.
And I love that when everyone's frantically trying to get out, and Molly and Tanya are like,
Go
"Let's get
away
out
from
of
the
here."
back.
No, they're like, "Let's get out of here." And Molly's like, "What about Anton?" And their friend's like, "Fuck Anton. Let's get the fuck out of here."
I
Like,
mean, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
this dude just got scalped. I don't give a shit about Anton right now.
Self-preservation mode. Who cares about anybody else?
And so they go into the air vent, the ridiculously oversized air vent.
Another movie cliche.
It's not even like a horror movie cliche. Like that's
It's
almost
just
like
a movie cliche.
an action movie. Or
It was very 90s where like there's a huge fan. and
yeah,
they're
with
in
this
air
giant vent in this high school.
We
Like that
need-
doesn't make sense.
We need to
This
stop this. We need to
industrial
stop the
size.
fan.
Yeah. So we see Molly and
Tanya moving very slowly, talking about boys as they're going through this air vent.
Well, there's something murderous out there trying to kill them.
She had a whole. There's something about Penub I never noticed before.
Yeah, like what? His dead? Is that what you noticed? Because that's what you should have noticed. And
So they
then
get to
we
the-
see that Penub and Mick are following Tanya and Molly through the giant air vent, and Penub is not happy about being in the air vent for Anton. He's kind of pissed about it. But then they hear Tanya scream, and he's like, "Oh, it's Tanya! Let's go get her! Let's go save her!"
Let's go save her.
He can play hero.
And so then Mick starts giving him shit, and I love that his bottle gets stuck in the vent. And he's like, "Well, this sucks." Because, like, you wouldn't think about that if you've only had it in your head for a day and a half. You know what I mean?
You would forget. It would take some getting used to.
Yeah, so you would hit it on things. And they get to the fan.
They get to the fan.
They get to the giant fan, and, Molly's just so resourceful. She takes a shoe and shoves it right into that fan.
She knew exactly what
that
to
was
do.
just crackerjack timing that she just put it in there, and that the fan didn't rip the fucking shitty
Shoe in half.
And
Yeah.
where did she get the rope from? I
It
never...
was
It
the
was Tanya's
whip.
part of her costume.
Yeah, she had
Was
a
it?
whip.
It was a whip that
Yeah.
she had.
Because I didn't notice it
But what the
before.
fuck was her costume? Because I thought it was like
A
a cat,
devil.
but I guess she was like some devil thing.
Yeah, she was a devil with the whip. I don't know. But
Okay.
So ingenuity that she does is she uses that to climb down because
climb
they realize
down.
it is too far of a drop to go down.
Yep. But Tanya's scared. Tanya doesn't want to go down. And so she's taking her sweet ass time, even though she knows, she says, it's going to get me and I'm going to die up here. Then, bitch, move.
Move.
Just go.
Again, self-preservation. You might get a broken ankle, but your ass will still be alive.
But naturally, the hand gets there fast and takes poor Tanya out, and Tanya hits the fan. Literally.
Literally.
She literally hits the
Fan
fan.
kill is what I call
I
it.
put Tanya hits the fan.
Blood spatters everywhere. and
Everywhere.
then-
All over poor friend Jessica Alba, who is standing underneath the fan.
And we see Peanut and May finally roll up and see that she's been chopped to bits.
And
They
he
see
says,
the remains. Yeah.
they see this remain, and Mick says, I'm not going through all this, Tanya. Go back.
And he's like, man, I was going to get me some. He's like, you still could.
You still good? You want to go back and get some?
Piece. You
Yeah.
can still get a piece.
You go back and grab a piece.
So
And so we see Molly escape down into the ceramics room.
Yeah, she's in like the weird art room, and she's like, we're like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, she gets hit in the head.
She gets hit in the head, and she goes,
she
oh,
goes,
and
"Ow."
falls over.
Oh. Yeah, that's what it was. We're like, oh.
So, and then we see that they're in some weird art room. So Anton finds an evil puppet with the hand inside, and he knows that it's taken Molly, so he's trying to fuck up the puppet. And then that's when Mick and Penub come through the ceiling and hit it.
Beating the hell out of it again. And
Yeah.
just when you think he was going to
Yeah,
get the upper hand on it, they come crashing
The
down.
upper hand. I put creepy puppet from hell versus one-armed stoner.
Yes. And so naturally they let it out, and
He gets pissed on
he
him
gets
again.
pissed. He's like,
you
you
let
guys
it
let it
escape."
out again. And he's
We're
like,
here-
well, fuck you then.
Yeah,
And,
we're here for you, buddy. Well, fuck you then.
and Anton says, you know what? You guys can't crash my house tonight then.
And that's what pisses them off finally.
He does. So they turn around, and then they hear Molly scream, a blood-curdling scream, which is probably her best acting work in this film.
And they realize she's in the shop.
So they go to the auto shop.
Yeah, she's strapped down to like the Blues Brothers car from the fucking.
Yes.
Here's my
70s
question.
And the evil puppet is raising her into a pentagram on the ceiling.
Here's my question with the hand. How the hell was he able to drag her all the way over there, let alone throw her on top of a car?
See, this
He's
is what I'm
He's
saying.
murdering everyone. He's got the devil strength or whatever, right? He's got the evil behind him, and maybe he's got magic. I mean, who the fuck knows, right? But he's got a lot of shit to do. Like, he's able to kill these people. He's able to fly out of the fucking microwave. Like,
Well,
the
the other-
hand's got his shit.
But he couldn't go pick up an eyeball.
The hand's been doing this for a long time.
It
all right?
has
The
been, but-
hand knows what it's fucking doing.
But the other thing that they made clear was they had 6 minutes till midnight.
This is the longest 6 minutes ever.
Yes, it was a
Yes,
very long,
very
6
long 6
minutes.
minutes.
But we see the evil puppet, who is no longer just a regular puppet. He now has evil eyes because the
Yes.
hand is inside
Yes.
of him.
And again, Anton starts getting into a fight with him.
He is trying to bring the car back
Well, see,
down.
The hand is overpowering Anton. So see, that's how strong the fucking evil hand is.
He's overpowering
The-
his friends
the,
too.
The hand lived through the fucking microwave. Like, it's been doing some shit. All right, the hand knows what it's fucking doing.
Mm-hmm.
So now what we got going on is the hand is trying to slowly crush Molly on the pentagram that he drew on the ceiling.
Yep, and the boys are trying to stop him, but then something catches Mick's eyes.
Something hidden under a sheet.
Yep, and he goes and he says, "Those auto shop boys are true artistes."
And you see
find Mighty Joe Bong.
Mighty Joe Bong.
Which Peanut claims that he made.
He does. And they immediately drop helping Anton, save this woman's life and start getting high.
Like, I needs me spinach.
Yes.
Yeah, Peanut needs a spinach.
So Anton actually does something smart, is he actually starts getting high, but he's not getting high in the sense of what you think he's doing.
Nope, he's just
Yeah,
taking
you're
a huge
finally
hit.
you're finally having some Anton time.
Yeah,
I think
his
it's
friends
what-
think that he's just relaxing.
Which Molly gets pissed off. He's like, really? You're going to get high with your friends?
You're getting stoned with your friends? Unbelievable.
Yeah, literally. So he gets the hand baked.
fully baked.
Which lets off the lever that was
Yeah.
crushing Molly.
Well, it
very,
is-
very slowly, by
It
the
is
way.
the devil's lettuce, guys, so naturally it would affect the hand.
The hand is what did he say? He's like a one-hit chump. I
Yeah,
think
he's
is
a
what Mick
lightweight,
says.
yeah.
So we get the hand high, and so it lets up enough to where Anton can stop the car from racing. And they're like, yay, we did it. Good job, guys. Marijuana saves.
Yes, again, marijuana saves the day. But yet,
And then Molly's like, I'm still up here, goddammit.
they try to get her down, but we see that the hand,
The puppet
the puppet,
is stuck in, and naturally when Anton does get the puppet high, the puppet gets high. His eyes get bloodshot
Yeah.
and roll back into his head.
Of course.
so he's incapacitated for just a little bit, comes to his senses when we see Sister Liquor come through and see where everybody's at, and she has her dagger in tow.
Yep, and the hand
the
does
hand's flying again.
flying through the air. Classic. You can't kill the villain.
She chucks or she throws the dagger at said hand. So another funny part in the movie, which I loved, was even Seth Green, after it gets impaled, it just poof and disappears.
Yeah, and he's like, "That's a little anticlimactic, don't you think?"
Like, that's it. No fire,
explosions, no fire,
none of
like-
that. Like, that's it.
I mean, I'm glad everybody's okay, but so then Anton takes the knife out of Mick and cuts Molly's rope, and then they're making out underneath the car, which seems
she
safe.
like shoves him under that car.
Well, she was under there and like
They
pulls
started-
him back.
Yeah, she pulls him or whatever and is like, let's make out. Like, I almost died and you saved me.
And
It's
she
so
like pushes him
hot.
back in there.
And Debbie goes to have ritualistic sex with Randy.
Well, her job is done.
Her job is
yeah,
done.
she's
It's
done.
time for ritualistic
She did what
sex
she had
now.
to do.
Druid time.
It's druid time. It's druid sexy time is what it
Wink,
is.
wink.
They're making out under the car, and Molly gets out from under the car, and Mick and Penub are still trying to get high.
And
And
like,
Mick
gets
accidentally hits Penub with Mighty Joe Bong and shoves him back into the handle that was moving the car up and down, and the car instantly comes down on top of Anton
Which he
and
makes a joke about
crushes
that.
him. I love Mick's reaction because he screams, "Sweet Jesus!"
He screams "Sweet Jesus," and then he's also like, "That should have come down that fast."
No, Penub goes, "Okay, that wasn't my fault. That thing should have come down a lot slower."
Yeah.
Again, those two were awesome.
They are. They just make fun of the movie that they're in, and it's awesome.
So now that's when we finally
So
get.
yes, Heaven shows up and Anton is apparently dead because
They ask him, "You
because
coming?"
Mick was like, you know, they start walking there and they're like, "You coming, Anton?" And then we get that
The white.
The white out.
the
White
white
out.
fade out and it's so dreamy looking, and then
So now at the
That's
hospital,
hard.
we now get the reveal that Peanut
And Mick.
and Mick
Come
are
back
now
as
as
guardian
guardian
angels.
angels. And
Because
their job
clearly
is
Anton needs some guidance.
to, and their job is to make sure that he doesn't fuck up. And they're
yeah,
like, "Oh,
like
you're doing
we're
pretty good."
your guardian angels.
And so Mick and Penub are true to themselves, even as guardian angels, and they decide they're going to play one last prank on
They
Anton.
Fuck with Anton.
And they write, "I'm under your bed," which is the rule of 3. So the third time we see it.
So yes, it was a good prank.
It
in
was
the
a
end.
good prank.
Great prank.
And they also have another callback because when Anton cuts off his hand earlier, Penub mentions how he screams like a girl. And
Yeah.
Mick's closing line is like, "You're right, Anton does scream like a girl." So they're still ribbing him even in the afterlife.
And that's it.
And that's the movie.
That's
Yeah.
the movie. So, final thoughts?
I love this movie. I love everything about this movie. Like I said, I grew up quoting this movie. I saw it for the first time when I was in 8th grade, summer, I think, maybe. I don't remember. But it was a long ass time ago. But I have loved this movie since I first saw it. It's fun. It's got all the 2000s and 90s music that a little metalhead like me loves, and I just love it.
So for me, initially I was on the fence about it, but now that I've seen it multiple times within the past month, I have grown to love this movie more because of just everything that it is. It's all of the 2000s, 90s all rolled up into one. The comedy, the deaths, everything. I'm starting to fall in love with this movie just because of what it is, and to me now it's becoming a cult classic to something where I might need to see this once a year.
It definitely is a must viewing each Halloween. It's got some great kills. The death scenes, the blood splatter, all of it really is more than you would expect from a comedic horror movie like this. And like I said, I think they started out making one movie and ended up with this movie because as we see in like the
alternate
the
ending.
alternate ending and the explanation from the director that he was saying like this was the original ending but it just didn't fit with the movie that we ended up making, so we got it back together and made this new ending, which is what is in the film. It really is a good movie. It's got comedy, it's got gore, it's got cliche things in it that they make fun of in the movie, so you can't go wrong with that.
If you were a teen in the late 90s, early 2000s, you have to watch this movie. It's got all of your throwback jokes. It's got all the actors you know and love from childhood.
It's very reminiscent of your childhood.
It very much is. It's definitely one of those that you can throw on. It's a stoner movie, and stoner movies are just fun, and it's a stoner horror movie, which makes
it
it
even
twice
better.
as
We
fun.
need more stoner horror movies.
Yes,
we do.
for
That's it.
sure.
So, all right, visit us and we'll on our crowdfunding to make a next stoner horror movie.
Maybe someday we can do that.
That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to visit us on our Patreon page, which is
Patreon.com/ScaryNerd. You can also go to ScaryNerd.com to see more horror news and fun stuff there.
email us at podcast@scarynerd.com. And if you subscribe to Shudder and are a Joe Bob fan, the Halloween Hootenanny is this Friday starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. There's a 3-movie marathon that they're doing, and Scary Nerd will be on Twitter live tweeting that, so please join us.
You can also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, we love you.